Alright, Subcourse QM5181 Edition A, Direct Operation, Maintenance, and Laboratory Facilities. Army Institute Professional Development Army Correspondence Course Program. Lesson 1, Performing ASTM Test, Critical 101, 523, 3400. Introduction. As petroleum laboratory specialists use to perform various tests on petroleum products to determine that you can be utilized for the intended purpose, you must also be able to observe the laboratory technicians or to determine if they are performing the laboratory test in accordance with the current annual book of the ASTM standards. Performing the laboratory test allows you to handle and assemble the test apparatus, report the results of the test, determine if the product can be reused for its intended purpose. Part A, significance and use of each of the test procedures. D 47 473, D 1319, D 1320, D 3338, ASTM D 95 standard procedure for the water and petroleum products by bituminous materials and by distillation. The test method covered by the determination of the water, the petroleum product, the tars, and other bituminous materials by distillation method. Significance and knowledge of the water and content of the petroleum products is important for the refining, purchase, sale, and transfer of the products. Use the amount of the water determined by this method is used to correct the volume involved with the custody of the transfers oil. ASTM D473, a standard method of sediment and crude oil, fuel oils extraction method. This test method covers determining a sediment and crude oils with the oils and extraction by toluene. Significance and knowledge of the sediment content crude oil with the fuel oil is important for the both operation, refining, and the buying and selling of oil. Use the amount of the sediment determined by the method is used for operation, refining, and marketing fuel. The ASTM D1319 standard test method of the hydrocarbon test of a liquid petroleum product, the fluorescent indicator adsorption. The test method is determining the hydrocarbon type over the concentration range from 5 to 99 volume percent. Aromatics 0.3 to 55 volume percent. Olefins are 1 to 95 volume of saturates and petroleum fractions distill below the 315 degrees Celsius. Significant knowledge of the total volume percent in saturates, olefins, and aromatics in the petroleum fractions. Important to describe the quantity of the petroleum fractions, the gasoline blended components is feed into the catalytic reforming process. Using the information also is important to describe the petroleum fraction products and catalytic reforming, the thermal catalytic cracking of the bending of the components within motor aviation fuels. ASTM D1322 standard method of the smoking point of the kerosene aviation turbine fuel. The test method covered the procedure of determining the smoke point of the kerosene aviation turbine fuel. Significant, the test method provides an indication of relative smoking procedures, smoking producing properties of the kerosene aviation turbine fuels in the diffusion flame. Use the information and quantitatively related with the potential radiant and heat transfer for the combustion of the products of the fuel. ASTM D3338 standard test method for the estimation of net heat and combustion aviation fuels. The test method covers the estimation of net heat with the combustion of the aviation gas from the aircraft turbine and jet engine fuel. Significance and knowledge of the test of the method is guided in cases where experimental determination of heat combustion is not available, cannot be made easily, and when an estimate is more than satisfactory. Use of the method is not intended to substitute the electronic experimental measures of the heat combustion instead of the establishing correlation application with the other hydrocarbon distillates. Hydrocarbons methodology can be used in determining the heat combustion. Part B, D95 standard procedure for the water petroleum product, the bituminous material by distillation requires by warnings. Auxiliary toluene warning, flammable, very helpful, very harmful. Keep it away from heat and sparks and opening flame. Keep container closed with adequate ventilation. Avoid breathing vapor and spray mist. Avoid prolonged and repeated with contact with the skin and Aipd. Warning, extremely flammable, harmful. Inhaled with the vapors can cause the flash fire. Keep away with the heat, sparks, open flame. Keep container closed. Use the adequate ventilation. Avoid buildup of the vapors. Eliminate at all source and ignition, especially in non-explosion proof electrical apparatus and heaters. Avoid prolonged breathing of the vapors and spray mist. Avoid prolonged or repeated skin contact. Environmental precaution for this test method is to clean up all the spills immediately and dispose of the hazardous waste in accordance with the IAW laboratory standard operation procedure. Report all the hazardous material, waste, and spills, and be familiar with the known location of the material safety data sheets for all hazardous materials presenting in the workplace. Apparatus for the test method includes the glass, metal, and heater, reflux condenser, and a graduated glass trap. Sampling requirements for the test and the size of the test portion should be based on the expected water content in the sample, such as the water yield does not exceed the capacity of the trap. Testing procedure: measure a suitable amount of the sample to an accuracy of 1% and transfer it into its to a still. Measure ordinary liquid into the graduated cylinder and appropriate size. Rinse the material adhering the cylinder with 150 milliliter or two 50 milliliter portions of solvent carrier liquid. Drain the cylinder through the after sample transfer in each rising. Weigh the solid viscous material and directly into the still. Add 100 millimeters of the selected solvent carrier liquid. In this case, a lower water content with the larger samples must be used. A solvent carrier liquid volume excess of 100 millimeter may be necessary. Glass beads and other boiling aids may be added if necessary to reduce bumping. Assemble the components for the apparatus, choosing the trap in accordance with the expected water content in the sample, making all the connection vapor to the liquid tight in the metal still. With the removable cover to the insert and the gasket with the heavy paper moistened solvent between the still body and the cover of the condenser trap. It must be chemically cleaned to assure the free drainage of the water at the bottom of the trap. Insert the loose cotton plug at the top of the condenser to prevent the condensation of atmospheric moisture inside. Circulate the cold water through the jacket of the condenser. Apply the heat to the still, adjusting the rate of the boiling so that the condenses distilled discharge condenser at the rate of 2 to 3 drops per second. If the metal is still used at the start of the heat of the ring burner, you about 76 millimeters above the or 3 inches above the bottom of the still. Gradually lower and further distillation procedures. Continue distillation until no water is visible in any part of the apparatus except for the trap. The volume of the water in the trap remains constant for 5 minutes. If there is a persistent ring of the water in the condenser tube, carefully increase the rate of distillation. Cut off the condenser water for a few minutes. When the evolution of water is complete, allow the trap contents to cool to room temperature. Just let the drop waters adhere to the side of the trap. Then, with a glass rod or other suitable means, transfer them to the water layer. Read the volume of the water in the trap to the nearest scale of division. Calculation reporting procedure. Calculate the water and sample. The weight of the volume proceeding in accordance with the basis of the sample was taken as follows. Water percentage equals the volume times the weight times 100. Where volume of the water in the trap times the weight of the volume sample. Volatile water supply material and present will be measured with the water as water. Report the results of the water content were nearest to the 500ths of percent into 2 millimeters. Receive has been used in the nearest 1/10 of its percent into the 10 millimeter, 25 millimeter receive, and being used with a 100 milligram or 100 gram sample. Part C, D473, standard test method for sediment and crude oil, fuel oils with extraction method. Toluene precaution, keep away from the heat and sparks. Open the flame of the vapor, harmful with the toluene is toxic. Additional precaution carefully must be taken to avoid the breathing of the toluene vapor and protect with the eyes with the keep container closed. Use adequate ventilation, avoid prolonged repeated contact with the skin. Environmental precautions with the test method to clean up the spills. Immediately dispose of the hazardous material and hazardous waste. IAW laboratory standard authorization procedure. All hazardous material and hazardous waste spills. Immediately be familiar with the known location of the material safety data sheet for all the hazardous materials present in the workplace. Apparatus for the test method consists of extraction of apparatus, extraction flask, condenser, extraction thimble, basket, water cup, source of heat. Sample of this test is obtained with the practice of D4057 or D4177. Testing procedure for the referee result. For the referee test, use the new extraction thimble. The routine test and test the thimbles may be reused. For the reusing of the thimble, it must be heated to the dull red hot heat to remove the combustional portion of the accumulated sediment. Before using a new thimble, rub the outside surface of the sandpaper and remove all the loose materials with a sift brush. Give a thimble preliminary extraction with the toluene. Allow the solvent to dip the thimble for at least 1 hour, then dry the thimble for 1 hour at the temperature of 115 to 120 degrees Celsius, and should cool and descator without discanning it for 1 hour, weighing the nearest to 1/10 of a milligram. Repeat the extraction until the masses of the thimble are 2 successive extractions do not differ for more than 2/100 of a milligram. Place an estimated 10-gram test portion of the sample of the thimble immediately after the sample mix, but do not attempt to adjust the estimated 10-gram portion of the exact predetermined amount. Weigh the nearest of the 1/100th of a gram. Place the thimble in the extraction apparatus. Extract the hot toluene 30 minutes after the solvent dropping from the thimble is colorless. Ensure the rate of the extraction in such a surface the moisture mixture of the oil and toluene of the sample that does not rise higher than within 20 millimeters at the top. When the test sample have the water content high water content water in the test portion is removed. The toluene azotropium is collected with the water cup. When it separates at the bottom layer, the toluene layer overflows into the thimble. If it becomes filled with water, allow the apparatus to cool and empty the cup. After the extraction is completed, dry the thimble for 1 hour at 115 to 120 degrees Celsius. Cool in the distillate with the distillate for 1 hour, weighing the nearest 200th gram. Repeat the extraction. Allow the solvent to drip the thimble at least 1 hour, but not longer than 1.25 hour. Dry cool, weigh the thimble pre-extraction for 1 hour period necessary until masses of the dried thimble plus the sediment after 2 successive extractions do not differ more than 2/200ths of a milligram. Calculation reporting procedures. Calculate the mass and sediment as the percent of the original sample as follows. Mass percentage equals blank mass sediment blank times 100. Original sample masses result in the nearest of 100th of a percent. And the most mass percent of sediment extraction from the test report shall reference the test method D473 as the procedure reused. Part D, 1319 Standard Test Method for Hydrocarbon Test for Liquid Petroleum Product with a Fluorescent Indicator Absorption Requirements and Warnings. Isomyl Alcoholic Warming Flammable Health Hazard. Isopropyl Alcoholic Warning Flammable Health Hazard. Pressurizing Gas Warning Compressed Gas under High Pressure. Acetone Warning Flammable Health Hazard. Environmental precaution for the test method or to clean up with the spill. Immediately dispose of the hazards and hazardous waste. Aipd Laboratory Standard Authorization Procedure. Repair all hazardous spills. Immediately be familiar with and will know the location of material safety data sheets for all the hazardous material present in the workplace. Apparatus for the test method consistent with the absorption columns and the zone measuring devices. Ultraviolet light source of the electrical vibrator. Hydrodermic syringe and regulator. Sample requirements are to get sample according to the procedure practice of D4057. Store the sample until ready to be analyzed at 4 degrees Celsius. Test procedure. Freely suspend the column from a loose fitting of the clap of the place immediately below the cylindrical joint with the charge section. When the vibrating of the column along with the entire length with a small increment silica gel through the glass funnel with the charge section until the separator with the section is half full. To stop the vibrator, add to 3 to 5 millimeters layer of the dyed gel. Start the vibrator and vibrate the column while adding more silica gel. Containing adds the silica gel until the tightly packed gel exceeds 75 millimeters into the charger section. Wipe the length of the column with a damp cloth. Vibrate the column. This aids the packing in the column by removing the static electricity. After filling it is complete, the vibrator the column up for up to 4 minutes. Attach the filled column to the apparatus assembly in the darkened room in an area. When permanently mounted material is used, fasten the lower end of the column to the fixed rule with a rubber band. Chill sample a hypodermic syringe at the 2 to 4 degrees Celsius. Draw with a 0.75 or 0.300 of a millimeter. A sample of the syringe injectors with a sample 30 millimeters. Measuring surface of the gel in the charging section. Fill the charger section cylindrical joint with the isopropyl alcohol. Connects the column to the gas manifold. Apply 14 kPa gas pressure at 2.5. Move the liquid from the front of the down to increase the pressure to 34 kPa gauge for another 2.5 minutes. Then adjust the pressure required to the given and transfer 28 to 69 kPa gauge is needed for the gasoline type sample. 69 to 103 kPa gauge for jet fuels. Pressure required depending on the tightness of the packing of the gel and the molecular weight of the sample. A transfer time of 1 hour is optimum. However, the high molecular weight samples may require longer in transit. Avoid touching the column with the hands during the operation. Also, direct the exposure of ultraviolet light. Be careful that the operator should avoid with as much as possible, particularly with regard to the eyes. After the red alcoholic aromatic boundary has advanced for the 35 millimeter, the analyzer section may be set for the readers quickly marking the boundary of the hydrotype of the zone. Observe the ultraviolet light following sequence. The non-fluorescent saturated zone mark the front of the charge at the point where the yellow fluorescent first reaches the maximum intensity. For the upper end of the second olefin zone, mark the point where the first intense blue fluorescent occurs. Finally, the upper end of the third aromatic zone may with the color distillate alcoholic aromatic boundary is clearly defined by the red ring of the dye, and however the impurities of cracked fuels often be obscured with the red ring give the brown color radius and the varies in length, which then shall be counted within part of the aromatic zone. If no fluorescent is present with the brown and the reddish ring shall be considered a part of the new distinguishable zone below the column if the boundaries have been marked up with the index clips and record measurements. When the sample has advanced with a 50 millimeter down with the column to make the second of the reading of the marking of the zones in the reverse order to describe the previous step of the minimized error due to the advanced boundary position during the readings. If the marking has made with glass writing with a pencil, two colors can be used to mark off each of the set of the measurement with the distance measured at the end of the test, with the analyzer section lying horizontally on the top of the bench top, and the boundaries have been marked off for the index and the clips of the record of the measurement with the erroneous results, and can be caused by the improper packing of the gel and complete elution of the hydrocarbons by the alcohol. The precision bore columns in complete solution or elution can be detected by the total length of the several zones, which must be at least 500 millimeters of satisfactory analysis with standard wall tubing. This criteria is the total sample length is not critical applicable because of the inside of the diameter of the analyzer section is not the same in all columns. For a sample containing substantial amounts of the material boiling above 240 degrees Celsius, use the isoamyl alcohol instead of the isopropyl alcohol. They may be elution. Remove the gas pressure, disconnect the column to move the used gel for the precision bore column. Invert above the sink insert with the long piece with the 9 degree numbered 19 gauge hypodermic tubing with 45 degree angle with the wide end by means of 6 millimeter outside diameter cubic copper tubing at the opposite end attached to the rubber tube. Connect the water with the tape. Flush in with the rapid steam of the water, rinse in the residue free as acetone and dry with by evacuation. Calculation and reporting and procedure for each set of the observation calculated with the hydrocarbon test near to 1/10 of a volume percent of the volume for aromatic percentage volume is LA or length of aromatic zone times the sum of the length of the aromatic alphalin and saturated zone by 100 times 1. Alphalin's percentage volume, length of alphalin zone divided by the aromatic zone, alphium zone, saturated zone, millimeters, and times 100, and saturated percentage volumes LS, length of the saturated zone times divided by the length of the aromatic alphium on saturated zones times 100. Average respective calculated values each type of the necessary as adjusted results for the largest component of the sum of the components with 100% of the above. The rest of the results corrected the total sample basis as follows. C, a concentration of hydrocarbon type on total sample equals the concentration of hydrocarbon type percentage of volume on the total sample times 100 minus the concentration of total ascertained bleeding components of the volume percentage and sample report average for each hydrocarbon type nearest to the 110th of a volume and the total volume percent oxygenates in sample as calculated divided by 100. Party D1322 standard test method for smoke point of the kerosene aviation turbine fuel requirements and warnings. 2 lane warning flammable vapor harmful. Keep away from heat and sparks to open flame. Keep the container closed. Use adequate ventilation. Avoid breathing in flame vapor and spray mist. Avoid prolonged and repeated skin contact. Triamyl ethyl pentatite maximum warning. Extremely flammable, harmful if inhaled. Vapor may cause the flash fire. Keep away from the heat, sparks, open flames. Keep container closed. Use adequate ventilation. Avoid building up the vapors. Eliminate all the source ignition, especially non-explosion proof electrical apparatus, heaters of the void. Breathing of the vapor and spray mist. Avoid prolonged repeated skin contact. Methanol warning: flammable vapor, harmful, may be fatal with the cause of blindness. Swallowed, inhaled, cannot be made poisonous. Keep away from the heat of the sparks. Open flame. Keep the container closed. Avoid contact with eyes and skin. Avoid breathing the vapor and spray mist. We use with adequate ventilation. Do not take internally. Warning: extremely flammable, harmful. If inhaled, vapor may cause the flash fire. Keep away heat, sparks, and open flame. Keep the container closed with the use of adequate ventilation. Avoid the boiled up of the vapors. Eliminate all sources of ignition, especially non-explosion proof electrical apparatus, heaters. Avoid breathing of the vapor and spray. Avoid prolonged repeated skin contact. Environmental precautions. For this test, method of cleaning up spills immediately with the disposed hazardous material, hazardous waste, IAW laboratory standard optimization procedure. Report all hazardous material, hazardous waste spills immediately before be familiar with all known location material safety attache hazardous material presents in the workplace apparatus. The test method consists of the smoke point, lamp, the wick, and pipe tits, barrettes, and sample the requirements for the test of aviation turbine fuel and a refined petroleum distillate kerosene, another refined petroleum distillate boiling between 140 degrees and 300 degrees Celsius, generally used in lighting and heating applications. Testing procedure: samples burned in the enclosed wick-fed lamp of the calibrated daily against the pure hydrocarbon blends of the non-smoke point. The maximum height of the flame that can be achieved with the test fuel without smoking is determined to the nearest 5/100th of a 5/10th of a millimeter. Calculation reporting procedure and use of the correspondence between the smoke point and the illuminator number. The relationship is based on the regression of the data of the 315 fuels having illuminator number the following with the range of from -2 to 100. Therefore, 160 jet fuel A or A1 JP4 JP5 fuels in this group. Remaining fuels will be diesel fuels and kerosene blending with the refinery fractions. Other miscellaneous petroleum fractions. The correlation coefficient with the 95/100th of reporting of the demonstration through the confidence intervals and correlation line explainable almost complete with an inherent error of the in smoke point illuminator measurement means that there's fuel type of effective different from each of the two methods is small and masked by smoke and point illuminator number of the measurement and errors. Part FD 3338 standard test method for estimation of the heat combustion of the aviation to fuel and requirement warning. Safety precautions are not necessary for the test because of the empirical by observation method. However, the method does not purport address of all safety concerns and any associated with its use. Environmental precautions, if any, of the responsibility used for the method. Establish the appropriate safety health practices. Determine the applicability to regulatory and limitations prior to the use. Apparatus for the test method is not required because it consists of the correlating of observation sample for the test consists of the correlating various equation formulas and substituting values relating to the various fields into the equations. Summary to the test method: correlation 6 inch-pound with the unit has been established between the net heat and combustion gravity aromatic content with the average volatility of the fuel. The correlation is converted within the SI standard institution units. The relationship given in the following equation type of the fuel: aviation gasoline, aircraft turbine, jet engine fuel equation. And it goes net of heat of the combustion by BTU pound of the sulfur-free base equals 16.24. The gravity API Petroleum Institute minus 307 A. The aromatics volume or plus the 0.11714 of the gravity times the API by the volatility point of the average test method. These 86, 10%, 50, and 90% points of C. Basically, you're gonna have to look at that for yourself. To correct the same correction of any of the following net heat combustions, apply the following equation: the net of heat of the combustion megajoules kilogram British thermal units per pound with the fuel containing the S1 weight percentage sulfur equals the KP 1 inches per pound or KP standard institution units times the 1 minus 0.100 times sulfur content of the fuel mass and plus 0.10166 standard units or 43.7 inch-pound with the constant base thermometrical data of the sulfur compounds times 3. The empirical equations in this estimated with the heat combustion sulfur-free bases were derived with the stepwise linear regression method using data with the 241 fuels, most of the conform to the specification of aviation, gasoline, aircraft turbine, or jet engine fuels. Calculation reporting the procedure: calculate the net heat of the combustion sulfur-free base using the equation number 1 round the value obtained with the nearest 1,000th. Sample the kerosene, determine the value of the aromatics at 12.5% volume density of 805.0 kilogram meters square cubed. Distillation 1010. T10, 203 degrees Celsius, T50, 230 degrees Celsius, 203, 290 to 240 degrees Celsius. Te is equal to 203 plus 233 plus 245 divided by 3 equals to 227 C. Calculated value: A times T equal 8 times T equals 2,837.5. Substitute in equation number 2 and report the result of the nearest 1,000 new heat of the combustion of the fuel in megajoules per kilogram. Lesson 2, evaluating preparing chemical solutions in glassware equipment.